Today we're here with David Westgate. David is a mental health advisor and consultant. He is a mental health speaker for the Black Dog Institute and a course facilitator for Mental Health First Aid Australia. David has a vast experience working on mental health for diverse communities and companies, including the Sudanese community, the Friends and Family of Missing People Unit, the Department of Communications and Culture, MedLife, and the Treasury. And David, I'm delighted to have you here because, you have such a great experience working on mental health. So thanks for being with us today.
Not at all, Karina. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's jump straight away onto it.
Sure.
When you and I first talked, you mentioned actually your entire career has not been in the mental health area. You were in advertisement before.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit that. Tell us a little bit. What was your career, your previous life career, and what prompted you to do the change?
Sure. I spent my career, what I consider my real career or my first career in advertising. And that was probably for about 35 years, worked in large multinational agencies on big clients. And but throughout all that time, I suffered from a mental illness known as bipolar 1, which is kind of like a roller coaster ride. The fact that it comes with really, really dark lows and sometimes amazing manic highs, just incredible manic highs. But I wasn't really aware of that. I wasn't really diagnosed until I was 48. But about 8 years ago, a friend of mine said, you should start talking to the Black Dog Institute. This is while I was still working in advertising. So I spoke to them and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you talk for us. So I started talking to the Black Dog Institute and I immediately became really, really passionate about mental health. I was absorbed with it. I just went, and the more and more I did that, the more and more I learned. And also, because I'm 64 now, so my advertising career was starting to die off. That's like, I was a real dinosaur in the advertising industry, but still living in it. But so as that waned, and I became more and more interested, and I was doing more and more talks in mental health. And then finally, I said to my wife a few years ago, I said, I'd love to try and make a living in mental health and just forget about advertising altogether. And as she rightly said, she said, well, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it because you get older. And so I jumped in. I did a mental health training so I could train people in mental health first aid. And I was fortunate enough to get a few memberships on mental health boards and things like that. And it was difficult because I didn't have a psychology degree. But that was it. I was so fascinated with it. I just kept following it. And now I'm really happy to say, I can actually make a normal living out of it. And
Fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, because you enjoy your career in advertisement, but then you found, okay, this is a new passion that came, I would assume, came to you as in investigating about your own condition. And
precisely. That's exactly it, Brenda.
Yeah. So you said you were diagnosed later on, with a bipolar disorder. So how? And I think on your LinkedIn profile, you said you're bipolar 1, which is different, like the different classes. Maybe we need a different session for all the different types of bipolar.
I would worry with that. Yeah.
But how being diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, or not even the diagnosis, but how bipolar 1 class affected your career? How being a person that suffers with a bipolar disorder affected your work environment, your career, your day-to-day life, and what were the positives and the negatives, and how did you learn to overcome the challenge?
Bipolar 1, like I was talking, bipolar 1 has these manic highs where people you don't need much sleep, you're incredibly energetic. You can be incredibly creative, but a lot of it too, you're going to have like your thinking can be like very lack control, and what you might think are brilliant ideas, other people go, whoa. But I think in some ways that did help me. Working in advertising, that probably helped me to be quite prolific.
I was going to say that, no, like if you're very creative, you you need to be creative.
But quite honestly, I think if I'd worked for, I don't know, Deloitte or KPMG or whatever, like that would not have helped me, because people would have gone, whoa, what, this guy's out on a limb. I don't quite understand what he's doing. Yeah. But so that may have helped me. I don't know. I see, my thing is I'm very well medicated now. Live a very normal life, unlike when I was unmedicated. Okay. But I still find myself, I think I'm very creative. And so I wonder if I'd been medicated all my life, whether I still would have been and I think I probably would have been. Okay. I don't think I suddenly would have lacked my creativity. But the other side of it is, man, it made life a real struggle, like really bad depressions. Even when you're manic, it's not always great. It can be interesting to other people who are outside your circle who don't know what's going on, but for your immediate family and immediate friends, it can be really difficult.
Challenging.
So I often say, people often say, oh, look, if I've heard people say, I'd never get rid of my bipolar. I'd never. And quite honestly, if the mental health fairy came along to me and said, would you like to live with it or without it? I would have gone, take it away, get rid of it, throw it in the garbage bin. I don't want it. Yeah. So there were some pluses, but I'd say most of them were a lot of negatives that you had to fight through, and you had to fake your way through it. You had to turn up to work pretending everything was all fine.
Yeah, and that's challenging, isn't it? And what you said, and I think a lot of people, it is improving, but I know of a lot of people that suffer from different, mental health conditions, including being bipolar, and most of them were diagnosed really late, or in like adulthood. So they have gone through, like through a lot of years of struggles, not understanding what is not wrong, but what's happening with them. And you're right, it's challenging for them, but it's also challenging for the family, of course, because like the swings in mood, so people cannot relate on what's going on with them.
And look, with any mental health issue, whether it be depression or anxiety or whatever, the unrecognized heroes of it are always the friends and family who have to help and support and do all of that. And I look back at my life and go, if it wasn't for that support, I may not have even be here. But all the focus in society is on the person who suffers, and there's very little support for those who support people.
True.
And that must be really, really difficult, I'd imagine. If you cared for somebody that you loved, or a very good friend or a family member, it must be really exhausting, and not to be ever recognised, very hard.
True. It is. It is challenging. I tell you that by experience, because my husband Peter has suffered from depression, and he's really good. We put a whole plan together, and we work together on it, and it's amazing. But it's a worry, of course, and it is challenging, and and it's not something that you grow up learning how to manage, right? So
of course not. That's
and we're gonna go. I'm gonna ask you about that later on because of the Are You Okay Day and how to start the conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most challenging things. People think it's very easy just to like open up the conversation with Are You Okay, and it's not actually. In your experience from being a mental health facilitator, tell us what are the three most common forms of mental health issues that you see out there?
The most common forms in Australia, and I'd say probably in the Western world, are anxiety, and anxiety particularly at the moment, but anxiety being we all suffer from anxiety at times. You have to make a big presentation or whatever and you get anxious, but I'm talking anxiety, the severe anxiety that you just can't handle and you don't know why you're anxious. So there's anxiety, there's depression, and the other one, and they're all tied together, is substance abuse. And if you think about it, they don't all necessarily happen individually, because I might be really depressed and not working particularly well. And then I get anxious because I'm fearful of losing my job. And the only thing that gives me any joy at the moment is, I don't know, drinking a bottle of wine a night or whatever your drug of choice might be. And so they can tie together very easily. Okay. Sometimes people have, like, I suffer purely from depression, that's it. But often they'll intermingle and tie together.
Yeah, you start compensating, maybe bringing things, yeah, or trying to compensate. So what is the difference between anxiety and depression? Sometimes people talk a little bit like if it's the same, but they're not, right? So
no, they share some similar symptoms, like difficulty in sleeping. They can be exhausting, but depression is really a very, very deep sadness, an inability to find any joy in anything in life, and it's exhausting. A lot of people who've never been there go, "Oh, depression, yeah, that's like being a bit sad." Yeah, well, it's nothing like being a bit sad. It's an illness that drags people down, to very, very black pits. On the other hand, and depression, it's like a slow motion illness. People just lack energy because they're not sleeping well, and they find it very difficult to physically move. I used to have a friend who'd say, "Oh, it's the slow motion illness. It's like walking in wet concrete." Anxiety, by the other side, is, I think, when you just can't settle your brain, when it just, you're worried, you're continually worried, and you've got no idea what you're worried about. It's not like normal anxiety, which we all have, can be just, I'm worried about, my job performance. I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. Anxiety disorders.
The normal things in life that gives you that little bit of the butterflies, a little bit more than the butterflies, right? Like the job interview, or I'm going to do something that I've never done before, or a meeting with someone that I haven't seen. Like
precisely. And that actually can help you perform better in those situations. Anxiety disorders just take at you. It's very difficult to control your thinking. And you can have a whole stack of really physical symptoms too, like rapid heartbeat, sweating, nausea, a desire to flee. It's just a whole stack, even chest pain, which I'm happy to say, like, I've had anxiety so bad and so severe that I've gone to the hospital in the belief that I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
Severe anxiety. So they share some very similar things, but to experience them, they're very, very different, anxiety and depression. But even like anxiety too, people who have never suffered it go, "Oh, it must be like being a bit worried all the time." But it's not. It's far, far deeper. And I always try and impress on people who have never suffered from any form of illness, mental illness. That's right. They are deep, and not to underestimate them. If somebody's turning up going, "I'm really badly depressed," don't think to yourself, snap out of it. Because that's the equivalent of being somebody with cancer should snap out of it.
Yeah.
You physically can't. And why would anybody who is depressed or suffering from anxiety why wouldn't they snap out of it if they could? Nobody enjoys going through that stuff.
No one would stay if they could just snap out of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Precisely.
You're absolutely right. I think sometimes it's what you say is impossible to comprehend when you have not suffered that, which is this. It's the same like when you have lost someone and you said, oh, well, like I understand because I've been sad. Well, no, if you haven't actually lost a loved one, or if you have not suffered a particular situation, you cannot exactly match, the thoughts and the feeling. But I also think is people not understanding how to address the fact that someone is telling you that they are suffering from depression. Which was going to get me to my next question is, no, I'm going to go back. We'll go to that one after because I just think it's so important. We need to allocate time to this, but before we go into how to have the conversation. So let me go back. We're talking about anxiety, depression, substance abuse. So let's see, people start experiencing either anxiety or depression, and then they start either drinking, or having recreational drugs as a way to alleviate the feeling. And in particularly with alcohol, like when is that occasional glass of wine becoming too much? When you are talking actually about substance abuse?
Yeah, it's really difficult to judge from outside, like to see. But basically, I think it's when it starts affecting somebody's ability to function well, to work well. It's affecting their relationships, their ability to just go through their normal daily lives as they normally have. Somebody once said to me, they said it's easiest to judge livelihood, law, love and life. And by that they meant when it's affecting livelihood, potentially affecting your job, your boss may have spoken to you about it. Love, when it might be a partner or it might be friends going, I really prefer you when you're not like this. And people are having trouble dealing with you, when you're drunk or you're on drugs or whatever. Law, maybe I get booze bust and I blow over, or maybe people get more aggressive and that sort of thing. Maybe I I shove somebody and they fall over, and I don't know, I have to go to magistrate's court or whatever, and I get a tick against my my good name, or life just in your health, that sort of stuff. Abuse will lead to poorer health.
Okay. And I suppose it's that difference between we're catching up with a few friends and enjoying a glass of wine and a nice dinner and a glass of wine, rather than the need feeling, right? Like I need to have a glass of wine or a bottle, or it becomes your routine that every night you have to, polish the bottle.
They might have very good reasons for doing so too. It may not be necessarily I really, really, really love wine. It might be like if you talk to people, which can be a difficult conversation because everybody's defensive about that sort of behaviour. You might find, they split up with their partner 6 months ago, or, they've had their income cut by 20% because of COVID. There's not always, I drink because I like to drink, or I can't stop it. Sometimes it can be drink to mask, or drink or any other substance to mask underlying things. I'm really quite depressed, or I'm very anxious, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The first time that you and I had a chat, you made a really interesting difference in between assessing people rather than diagnosing people. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I use you as an example?
Perfect.
People, I think one of the big things for people that scares them from talking to somebody who they think may be undergoing a bit of difficult times with their mental health is that they feel they're not qualified to do it. You know, oh, I'm not a therapist. I shouldn't talk. I know Karina doesn't seem to be going well at the moment, but I don't know what to say because I'm not a therapist. And the other thing is they go, I don't know how to fix Karina. And the good thing is you don't need to do either of those things, because all in assessing somebody rather than diagnosing somebody, if I work with you, Karina, and I know, oh, Karina's fun, she's vivacious, she's really helpful sort of person, but lately the last few weeks, she seems really tired and Karina seems, I don't know, a bit sad. And you know what? She's even been quite irritable. And that's just not Karina. That's all you're looking for. Karina doesn't seem to be herself at the moment.
Okay.
Karina's not herself. And I can know, because I know Karina either from work or she's my sister-in-law or she's my good friend or whatever. And I know how Karina normally is. And I know at the moment Karina's not quite like that. That's assessment. That's, anybody can do that. Anybody can look at a friend or a family member or a colleague and go, you know what, they just don't seem to be themselves. And the good thing is, you don't have to know anything about, like, I'm not going to look at you and go, classic case of clinical depression, or, oh, that's social anxiety disorder for sure. I don't have to know any of that. Okay. Just have to know that my friend Karina doesn't seem to be herself at the moment. I'm going to have a chat with her.
Yeah. And last week we had Suicide Prevention Day, and then the day before it was Are You Okay Day?
Yeah.
And I actually love one of your posts on LinkedIn that you did, I think this week, where you said, let's not wait another year until ask the question again. Yeah. And a lot of people does it as a little bit of a joke all day. Are you okay? Are you okay? Rather than actually asking with the purpose of listening to someone and understanding what's going on. But I think I mentioned at the beginning, I wanted to get to this point, but I wanted to allocate time with it, David, because I believe that people get a little bit, like anxious about asking the question for two reasons. First, because you feel like, well, why that person will talk to me about something that may be bothering them personally, right? Like if we work colleagues or someone that is not that close to me, or because too close, I'm supposed to know what's going on. Like, so why, why to ask? But also because when you ask and someone actually comes and said, well, actually, yes, this is what is, something is happening to me. You may think like, oh, wow, like that is way too much. That is too heavy. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to do next. And what if, and I worry sometimes, like, what if that trigger a person in a different way that like would actually wanted to open up just to make them feel better. So how can you start the conversation? How can you ask and how can you listen deeply, and what to do next?
If I was concerned about you, and the first thing I have to tell myself is, I'm going to be, if Karina comes out and says to me, yes, I am having problems, that'll be all right, because what I'm going to do is support her by listening. All right. So what I might do to start a conversation, and I think Are You Okay is a fantastic organisation, but I don't think it's the proper way to start a conversation. Because if I say, Karina, are you okay? Karina go, yes, I am. Thanks, Dave. And that's the end of it. Because it's a closed question. It's a bit like saying to somebody, how are you today? And everybody goes, I'm fine. You walk past somebody in the office, how are you? Good.
It becomes part of the hello phrase, right? I know.
Yeah, and it's got a question mark on it, which only requires a yes or no. So the best way, and don't, because I think Are You Okay is fantastic, because it's talking about the essence of having a conversation.
Yeah.
But what I would do, first thing, I think about when and how best to approach you. Let's for the moment think that we're out of lockdown. I mean, at the moment, it's going to be a phone call, or it's going to be a Zoom or whatever. But let's imagine we're back at work, and the first thing I'm going to think is, rather than just blunder in and have a conversation, I'm going to think a little bit about it first. And I'm also going to try and think, where would be the best and most comfortable place for you to have that conversation? Perhaps you go for a walk in a park at lunchtime, and we're colleagues, and I think I might just wander along one day and just have a chat. The other thing to remember too is, am I the right person to talk to Karina? If I'm Karina's immediate boss, maybe even I adore her, I think she's wonderful, but I wonder if she's going to freak and think that I'm assessing her work-wise. So in which case, I'll speak to somebody else to go, yeah, I know Karina, and I've noticed this too. So maybe I encourage them. But let's say I are great colleagues, we've known each other for 5 years, we get along really well. So I might simply start by having a conversation and then going, hey, Karina, look, I hope you don't mind, but I've been a little bit concerned about you of late. And then all you have to do is list the things that don't make Karina Karina. Yeah, Karina, you're normally really happy, full of laughter, really, you're the first person to offer help to other people. But lately, you seemed a bit sad, and you seem very tired. And look, I'm not having a go at it, but you've even been irritable. And Karina, that's not you. And that's all I do. I leave, and then I leave it, because Karina can't just go, yes, no. Karina has to come back in some way and talk to me a little bit. It might be like, I'm fine, I don't know what you're talking about, but she at least has to talk to me.
Yeah.
That's the way to open up a conversation. And you don't have to make it feel super serious. You can just keep it casual. I don't have to say, look, I come into an office, look, I'm really, really worried. And just go, we're mates. Look, I've noticed this. And that way I'm giving you an opportunity to talk.
To open up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's really simple actions, like identify what is the best timing to talk to that person, right? Not in the middle of the deadline for work, or not in the middle of, full of people when okay. So
I know Karina's got kids and she has to pick them. No,
yeah, bedtime or lunchtime, or okay. So identify a good time and express concern about, what you're seeing in a nice, like easy way, and then list the positives about, like what are the positives that about that person, which I think is great, because I think it brings that the good thing about that specific person, like it reminds them what is so good about them, and then what are you not seeing that, and then listen.
Yeah, I think you're a lovely person. And look, I reckon there's about 3 reactions I'm going to get from you, Karina, if I do that. First one might be, oh, look, thanks, Dave, but we've just been renovating a house. We've just moved in. We've been so busy. I've still got lots of work on. Quite honestly, I feel fine, but I'm just really tired.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being a bit snappy, but I've just been really tired. If I could get 8 hours sleep, it'd be fantastic at the moment.
Okay.
So that's one reaction. And you would go, oh, Dave's a really nice colleague, because he cared enough to ask. You wouldn't be thinking, oh, silly Dave. There's no embarrassment there. So I go, oh, that's fine. That's great. I was just a bit concerned. Yeah, no, look, I'm fine. Thanks for even noticing. Second reaction is, you might lie straight to me, and you might go, and this is the most likely thing you get, especially in the first conversation. You might go, oh, no, Dave, like, I've been really busy. We've been renovating the house. We've been moving in and packing the other and blah, blah, blah. But I'm fine. Now, even if I think you're lying to me, I don't say, hey, I think you're lying. I just go, oh, cool, that's fine. That's good to hear. But I've done you a really great favor there, because I've opened up a little door. And if you in a week or 2 weeks or a month's time go, I'm really not feeling well. And I've got to talk to somebody. Go, David spoke to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I know I can go and talk to David about it. And the other thing I've sort of done there too is go, maybe Karina thinks I'm getting away with this. I can fool everybody. I'm feeling terrible, but I'm actually feeling, you know, really, I'm looking great. Then Karina goes, oh, David's noticed. Maybe I'm not doing as good a job at this. And then the third outcome is Karina goes, actually, you know, I've been feeling really, really bad. I'm really sad, or I'm really worried all the time, and I've got no reason to be. Everything's great in my life, but I'm so sad, and I can't sleep, and or I'm really worried all the time and I can't sleep, and I just don't know what's going on. I don't know what to. If that's the case, then I sit back and go, hey, it must be rotten to be feeling like this. Tell me about it. Tell me how you're feeling, or what can I do to help you? Okay. And bang, I'm not going to fix you because I don't know how. I'm just going to support you. I'm just going to sit there and listen to you.
Would you recommend that person to visit someone that could provide tools, or any of the emergency lines? What is the next step? Because you're always worried to go too much, no? Like,
no, well, that's it. I think this is when you have to rely on your own discretion. You can give that person hope by simply saying, look, I've heard these things actually, like, mental health issues can be very, very common, but we just don't talk about them very much. So it feels, you know, like you're the only one or whatever, but I've heard they're very common. And the sooner, you know, you can get help, the better if you can be. But you might have the conversation with, and you would judge it. I might go, if you seem really grim, I might go, Karina, perhaps you should see your local doctor. Or, but if Karina's doesn't feel like she's, you know, if I say that and I feel like Karina's going to go, whoa, I'm not that sick, I might encourage her to go, why don't you have a look? The Black Dog Institute has a great website with like self-help tests, or Beyond Blue, or hey, we've got a fantastic employee assistance program, confidential, free. What's wrong with just having a chat? It's not going to cost you any money. Nobody's going to know anything about it. I could help you organize it. Anything that you think might be appropriate to get them motivated to get rolling a bit. Ultimately, you want that person to see a doctor. You want that
action. Yep.
And then possibly see a psychologist, or if it's really serious, to see a psychiatrist. But they might need little gradual steps to get to that point. Yes. And you can stay in touch with them and just keep going, because if perhaps you go and look at the Black Dog Institute and you do a self-help test and you go, oh, that test said I don't seem to be all that well. Maybe I should see a doctor. That might encourage you. And you go, well, that actually was suggesting that too. So anything I think that can just get the ball rolling.
Yeah, to motivate that action, that next step, no? Little steps will take you a long way. And your point about no one will know if there's an employee benefits or a calling one of the lines, Black Dog Institute, or I think that's key, because a lot of people still worried about others knowing that you're going through it. As you said, in so many ways, despite of us talking more and more about it and trying to demystify the issue and, you know, like bring down the stigma, it's like a physical condition, a mental condition. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I think it's very simple, very easy to follow. But thinking about COVID, about that first step that you mentioned, you know, like thinking about timing, first identifying that a person is not herself or himself. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because through COVID, we're all working from home. You're not day to day with your colleagues or your friends or your family. So you need to pay much more attention and make sure that you're in contact with that person to identify that something is wrong. But also it could be a little bit challenging to identify the best timing, right? Because you need to put a little bit more of effort to actually try to catch up with that person, whether over the phone or a text or Zoom, to actually have the conversation. So it is a little bit more challenging.
And in a case like that, the thing is you don't always have to wait for somebody that you think, well, they're not doing very well. Because we are great actors. We all wear masks, and we all wear hundreds of different masks. I wear a different mask with you than I wear lying on the lounge, having a beer with my wife, that sort of thing. But especially with mental health issues. But especially at times like this, and actually even my mate's been doing it, and we're 60s, in our 60s, and we're the classic old, have a cup of concrete and harden up. But just staying in touch with people and going, oh, how are you traveling? There's nothing wrong with people ringing each other and going, I'm finding it really tough at the moment. This is very hard. And letting other people talk about that. You don't have to wait till somebody goes like that to go, oh, I better talk to them.
Yeah.
If you talk like that, you can often cut people off at the pass, or just make people feel better who are not necessarily suffering, but are just flat. A phone call to somebody and go, hey, how you going? I'm up and down a bit, I felt that allows other people to go, oh, so have I. I've been really, or I'm struggling. And then you can have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's prompting the conversation, isn't it? It's opening up to the conversation. And you have to be willing. What I learned with myself when I asked the question is I needed to be willing to actually express to others how I'm actually feeling as well.
Yes.
And being honest with, being honest with it, being honest with the fact that I said, oh, well, I'm actually, in general, I've been well, but I'm not feeling quite well this week. Or what we were saying before starting, the recording, we were saying, oh, are we tired of COVID? This is getting a little bit too heavy.
But to that point too, you go, I reckon this is the time we've really got to start thinking about our mental health, because we don't think about mental health, and it's insidious. Mental health doesn't hit you like a physical illness. It can be start here and slowly take. Whereas a physical illness, if you woke up tomorrow and you couldn't bend your arm, and you went, well, I'll leave it a day and see how it goes. But if you still couldn't bend your day, you go, I better go and see a doctor. But people don't do that when they're not feeling well. And I think at the moment, I heard of a guy, and every day he ranks his mental health. Doesn't spend a lot of time at it, but he goes, today I'm an 8, I feel great. Oh, next day, I'm about a 6. But what he does, if he goes, you know what, I've been 5 for the last 2 weeks, I better have a look at myself. Maybe I need a little bit of help or whatever. And because people often don't know that they're even starting. They go, oh, like you asked me, going, well, yeah, I've been a bit down, but hey, everybody is at the moment, aren't they? And maybe Absolutely. I'm not, maybe I'm a bit worse than everybody else.
And I thought that was just what you mentioned before was so key. And I ask you again to share with us, what was the difference between I'm a little bit off, or I'm just a little bit nervous because I'm having this deadline for work, and symptoms of depression or anxiety? Because it's not easy. We don't grow up learning about it. So people don't know how to identify the difference, right? So when you're right, when we go to a doctor, if people goes, is already on, stages of that could be prevented.
Way back. I think you've really got to look and you go, okay, sure, I can be a little bit down. We can have mood swings. Today I'm not feeling great. Or I had a fight with my partner, or I don't know, somebody backed into my car and they didn't leave a note. No, I don't feel great. That's normal. That's a mood swing, and we all have those. But the difference is you kiss and make up with your partner, or you get your car fixed and you feel better again. Yeah, it's everything cool. But when you're starting to get depressed or anxious, you don't start feeling better. You don't, and you got to be aware to go, I feel pretty sad at the moment. But if you continue like that, because that's the difference between a mood swing and mental health issues is the duration, how long you've been feeling like that, and what impact it has on your life in terms of your ability to work, in terms of your relationships. And that's the big thing. And as soon as you start going, hang on, wait a minute, I'm really finding it so hard to focus on work. I'm having a fight with my partner all the time, or, you know, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to, you know, even if we're out of lockdown, but you go, well, you know, Sydney, we can go out groups of 5, but even if friends rang up and said, hey, we have a little picnic and a bottle of wine, and you went, oh no, look, I've got too much on or whatever. That'll be a classic sign, because you go, hang on, shouldn't everybody be going, I want to get out?
Catch up with someone, yeah.
Yeah, that should be a sign to yourself, and that should be a sign to other people. But the thing is, it's very difficult for people who are suffering because their perception is very bad. Okay. You don't, everything sort of goes down, and you don't even think about those things, which is why it's, to my mind, it's important for friends and family to go, David doesn't seem to be himself at the moment. We invited him on the picnic. He hasn't been out for 3 months. And he went, the
alarm sounds has to go off, huh?
Yeah, and somebody's going to talk. And could I just say this, what I should have said at the start of talking to somebody is, people often feel like, if I talk to Karina, maybe I'll make matters worse. And maybe ultimately, it might be tragic. Maybe I lead Karina to take her own life or something like that. That's wrong. And there's been lots and lots and lots of research to show that asking somebody about their mental health does not lead them to a worse position. And if you think about it, if you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, asking about somebody's welfare, boy, I don't know about you, but I'd go, that's really kind of you to ask. You know, I find that even with my mates, it'll be like 5 words, because that's my generation of men do.
Yeah.
But you go, he's a good friend. He cares enough to go, yeah, you're traveling all right, how's things, you know. You will not all you'll ever do is good. You won't ever do something that you go, oh, I've really harmed that person, I've made matters worse. You won't do that.
Okay. And that's great comfort for the people that have wonder if they should ask the question, if they should start the conversation, isn't it? It would never be, it would always bring a positive outcome, despite of, perfect.
And do it once, and then it'll be easier from there.
Exactly. And I think we could ask the question, or we could start the conversation, and sometimes it's not, like you said, it's not the right time for that person to open up. So it's fine. Yeah. That doesn't mean that we cannot ask or start the conversation again in a while if we just still feel that person is off, no?
Precisely. Yeah. And the other thing is, Karina, we can have a conversation like we are. It doesn't have to be, oh, Karina, I'm really worried about you. We can just have a conversation, chat about it. In fact, the more casual you can make it, I don't mean you don't care, but the more casual and everything, the easier it is for that person to go, well, you know what? I haven't been feeling particularly good.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you're just making it going, you're normalizing. Be like going, how's your flu? You know, how are you feeling with the flu? You know, going, oh, not bad. But you wouldn't say, oh, your flu, what's happening?
Yeah.
You just
don't make it so serious, right?
Yeah, that's, you sound like a funeral director. And if you do, you scare people.
Absolutely. Through LinkedIn, one of a person I know from the industry I work on, we start chatting, and I felt that he wasn't his normal self, even on the LinkedIn chat.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and at the beginning, He said, same thing, no? I've been a little bit busy, COVID, like, blah, blah, and now we're back onto lockdown and da, da, da. But at some point, actually, he said, you know what, I am not feeling myself.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let's have a Zoom chat. Like, let's just catch up. We haven't catch up in a while. And I'm so proud of him because he actually opened up. He said, I just don't feel myself. I can't pinpoint what it is. I'm constantly sad. And this is taking me, David, to my next question to you. At some point, I was so grateful he opened up with and he was grateful as well. He said, thank you for asking me because I have been able to kind of speak loud. I haven't even talked to my partner. I'm worried to worry them. And then I said, okay, well, have you thought to go to a GP or to talk to someone else? And he said, I have thought about it, but I actually wouldn't have a clue what to say or what to do if I go there. So my next question is, how can people that have decided, okay, I'm going to go and talk to someone, doctor, psychologist, counselor, how they can make the most out of that appointment? What is the way to go about it?
Sure. Look, doctors are like any profession. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean there's good ones, but there are people, you'll find doctors that know a lot about mental health, and you'll find some doctors that don't know much about it at all, because it's not a huge part of their training. Doctors are trained more in physical illness than they are in mental illness. So the first thing you want to do, and sometimes this can be very hard if you're down and you're not functioning well. So it may be, if it's a very close friend of yours or whatever, you might go, well, hey, you want me to come along? You want me to help you with this? But if it's just yourself, the first thing you want to do is find a doctor that knows a bit about mental health. Now, if you go to a doctor and you see the same doctor and you've been seeing them for a while, you can ask them. Okay, do you know? Because a good doctor is going to go, not really, but my colleague in the next room is really good with mental health. Or if you go into a medical centre, if you're one of these young people that never has an illness and they don't have a doctor, they go to a medical centre, there's nothing wrong with saying to the receptionist, who's best with mental health? And that receptionist will know, and they'll go, you should see Dr. So-and-so. You might have to wait 5 minutes more, but be good to see him. That's the first thing. You find a doctor that knows about mental health. The other thing is, when you make that appointment, you make an appointment, a long appointment. Most doctors' appointments are about 10 minutes. You're in, you're out, oh, hi, how are the kids, blah, 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 and then you see them looking up at the clock. Now, what you want, because your brain is foggy and you're probably not thinking well, and you've got quite a bit to talk about, it's not just, I'm not just here with a sore knee. Book a long consultation. You want to book a long consultation so you don't feel worried and hurried. Okay. It gives you time to talk about something. The other big thing, and this is especially for men, don't go into a doctor and go, now, if you've been possibly crying, you found yourself crying at times, or you're just so sad, or you're so worried that you just can't sleep, don't go into your doctor and go, oh, look, I've just been a bit blue. Or, oh, look, I've just been a bit worried, Don't bullshit. You've got to go in and go, I've been feeling really, really down. Or I've been feeling incredibly worried. I've been getting aches and I can't settle my mind and be.
So let it out, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've gone through a lot to get here. So make it count. So do that. And if you're really, really, really foggy, and sometimes, especially with depression, you can be very foggy, or your brain's not functioning well because you've got anxiety or whatever, you can write your signs and symptoms down. You can write it down, because otherwise what might happen is you go and see the doctor, you walk out, and 20 minutes later you go, I should have.
Yep.
Yeah, write them down. I see psychiatrists because I have to, for the medication, all that. He's a great guy. But it used to be, when I wasn't particularly well, he just say, write it all down for me.
Yep.
Just notes. And I go in and I give him the notes and go, all right, yeah. And we'd have great conversation based on that rather than me having to recall everything. But that's it. You find a good doctor that knows about mental health because everything else stems from there. A good doctor that knows about mental health will know a good psychologist.
Absolutely.
A good mental health will know a good psychiatrist.
And it could be that after that, you just need a few more sessions. You need to put some steps together, like to try to get back to your normal routine, sleep, eat better. Or it could be that you need to go into medication or whatever, but at least you can understand what are the steps that need to put in place. I think people worry too much that it's going to be too complicated. Some people don't want to go into meditation, or it's going to be a long, kind of like process, and I just don't feel that I can handle that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
No, not at all. I think too many people judge that end of the illness by watching too many movies. Psychiatrists, and they cost you thousands. You don't know. You could go and see a doctor, and a doctor go, you know what? I think you need to change your diet. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to get more exercise. Come on. You're sitting at your office, in your office on your computer all day and you're not, whatever. But go along and, the old saying, they're going, don't buy a dog and bark yourself. If your doctor recommends stuff and you like your doctor and you respect them, do what they say. Because you're quite right. To suffer from a mental illness, or I hate even saying that because a lot of people go, whoa. But if you've got a mental health issue, for most people, it's not a life sentence, and even for those people who suffer ongoing things, you have large periods of your life where you don't. Yep. So don't go along with the belief going, oh, what's the point? I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life, which is a very common way to feel when you're not well.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't go, you wouldn't just, your same example about your pain in the arm, you wouldn't just go through life having that pain every day, right?
Exactly.
So why not treat mental health in the same way, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. David, this has been an amazing chat. Thank you so much.
Not at all,
for
Karina.
sharing all that knowledge and experience, and just to once again just like put it down in simple steps that like our community can relate to and learn, and like maybe put it in practice as well with themselves or with their friends and family. So thank you so much again. I'm so glad that we got in touch and started working together. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And if you ever want to do this again, just yell, because this stuff, it's actually quite simple and straightforward. It just seems scary because people don't talk about it very much.
Yeah, we have never learned about it, right? Like it's just
no, we don't. No, we learn about everything else.
Even if you see it a lot in the media now, and like through COVID, I've seen a lot through LinkedIn, especially, and social media, and high-profile personalities coming and saying, yes, I have suffered from this and that. It has helped to demystify the issue, but we're still far away from. And look, the Black Dog Institute and like some organizations are doing an amazing job on research.
Absolutely.
But it's still something that we haven't grown learning. How to handle. So
we have to be. The awareness is great, but people have to have practical answers to go, oh, okay, this is how I do it, and this is how I get there. Because it's hard just to say, oh, it's see a GP. You might go and see a GP and you go, I hated it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Go and see another one, those
sort of things. Totally.
Lovely speaking with you, Karina.
Not a worry. Thank you so much again, David.